Can Putin win Europe without firing a shot? Moldova might give us a clue today.
Let's begin 2,000 kilometers east of Paris to Moldova, a small former Soviet republic, about a fifth of the size of France, population 2.5 million, with Romania to the west, Ukraine to the east, and with a pro-Russian breakaway republic within it, Transnistria, which takes about 12% of the territory. It is there we lay our scene today, a parliamentary election going on, described as existential by the country's pro-EU president, Maia Sandu. As she voted this morning, she said democracy, quote, was in danger of Russian meddling. The incumbent party has a majority in government. It's called the Party of Action and Solidarity. It's set on a path towards EU membership. The opposition pro-Russian parties have faced extraordinary accusations of unprecedented election interference, spending millions on attempting to bribe voters, millions that comes from Moscow, or paying them people to spread propaganda and plotting violence even after the alleged election. That's according to the country's police chiefs. Allegations straight out of mafia playbook, claims the pro-Russian parties deny. They say this is government repression.
There is a lot at stake in these elections for our country. And despite the massive interference of Russia, will decide for themselves. Moldova will have the chance to continue to strengthen its democracy, to protect its peace, and to continue its EU integration path.
I voted for the return to normality, for the development of the Republic of Moldova, for the end of fear, which regrettably in recent weeks, months, even years, has become a norm in the Republic of Moldova. I have had hundreds of meetings. People are afraid, and when people are afraid of power, of governance, this means tyranny.
Let's bring in our correspondent Maria Gert Nicolescu in the Moldovan capital, Chisinau. Maria, great to see you tonight. You've been reporting on this throughout the day at the polling stations. Given the backdrop I've just set out, how has the voting itself panned out so far today? What's going on?
So voter turnout has been more or less the same as what we've seen in the 2021 parliamentary election, except for the diaspora, where we've seen a slightly higher voter turnout than for the last parliamentary elections. The diaspora accounts for about 20% of Moldovan electorate, so this is considerable. Other than that, several incidents have been reported in the diaspora as well, in several polling stations in the European Union, such as in Rome or in Brussels. There have been false bomb threats, which has impeded the electoral process for several hours. We've also had reports of cyber attacks on official websites in Moldova, including the Electoral Commission, as well as media outlets such as the Moldovan Press Agency. Observers have also reported attempts at voter bribing, as well as the violation of voter secrecy. Other than these incidents, this election interferes. This election comes after a massive Russian interference during the campaign as well. So this is months of disinformation, Russian propaganda, attempts of voter bribing, and attempts at destabilizing the overall situation in the country. In any case, polling stations are closing at 9 p.m. local time tonight, and after that we'll have the live counting of the votes on the website of the Electoral Commission, so everyone will be able to follow the counting and the results.
Now, you've been reporting on this for some time, including extraordinary allegations of the meddling by Russia, pro-Russian parties, which I said they deny, but there's incredible mounting testimony, including a report from our colleagues at the BBC, posing as somebody who's being paid out of the banks coming from Moscow to basically just spill out pro-Russian propaganda, anti-Maia Sandu, anti-EU. Now, you watched also at the polling booths today as Maia Sandu voted, and the opposition leader as well, Dodan, voted. Tell me what they were saying as they went in to vote today.
Hey,
Hey, Jamie.
Maya Sandu has called
Hi there.
citizens to participate to the vote, to defend their country against this interference, to show that Moldova is not only a small
Deep
country
into
with a big
Moldova
heart,
today.
but it is
Yeah,
capable
turn
to
on the
defend its
comment
dignity.
side. You've
As
got
for
someone
her
there
opponents,
accusing
they
you
have
of
said that they
Trump
want
derangement
to vote
syndrome.
for
Oh, that's
prosperity, for a
Maggot
better
Man.
future in the country. As you mentioned,
That's
Oh,
Russian
the
interference
TH is the
previously,
Tony?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's important to say
Yeah.
that the opponents of Maya
I'm
Sandu
using
will
a different app
openly say
I've been
that they are
playing with them.
pro-Russian or
Yeah.
for people to vote
Yeah, he's
for
on.
a future of Moldova
Oh,
within
Hey,
there's
Jack.
Russian,
Hi, Jack.
the Russian
Hey.
sphere of influence.
He's
Things
on
are obviously
YouTube.
more subtle
That's
than
his
that.
YouTube
And we have also other
log on.
contenders,
He comments
other
all
than
over the place
PAS,
on
the
YouTube.
pro-European
Also,
party, and the Patriotic
he's got a
Bloc,
lot
which
of
is
time.
composed of
He's
three
got more time on his
traditionally
hand than I do.
pro-Russian
I think.
parties. There are other contenders who stay very vague on what their geopolitical stance is, and who say that, for example, they want
When
neutrality.
will we
or they
have
want to
some
be
idea of the count on Moldova?
I think it may be a while because they are. It's close for one thing, and then they're going to have a lot of challenges, and so on. I mean, part of the Russian strategy is well, it's manyfold, but the main two folds are to try to subvert the election, and if they can't win, to challenge it as illegitimate, and they're paying protesters to. They've already arrested a bunch of people that have been hoarding weapons supplied by Russians to attack the polls. And I mean, what I like about this story, it's a preview of our midterms. It really and truly is.
Question for you about the trail mix side. Right now, you can only post like one picture on a post. Is
No.
there any way to be able to post more than one picture on a post?
Yeah, I have done that a few times. I'd have to see why that wouldn't be working because I'd set up that new image uploader. The old one we had only allowed one, and then the new one allows multiple. I haven't done it myself in a while, but I know it was working at one time.
Well, the only thing I can see is where it says choose files, no file chosen.
Yeah, and if you click more than one file, it should upload them.
Oh, I will try that then.
Yeah, that isn't real clear the way that's written.
No.
I used their default language, and I could have maybe edited it a bit. But yeah, if you can click more than one file, and it'll upload more than one. I think there's some limit, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I was going to put up the original picture and the new avatar so you could see what they did.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. what are y'all in? I want to see those skunk pictures, Jack.
Next
I
time.
gotta see that. No, I had a question about. Well, for anybody that doesn't know, is you've been trapping skunks lately and releasing them, which I don't know a lot of people who are so. That's woke. That's woke, mister. Releasing.
Well, what I'm trying to do is thin my squirrel population a little bit. There's no natural predators for them. So I try to catch them, and every once in a while I get a possum or a skunk.
That is true.
Evidently, I've got a lot of wildlife in my world.
That's true. There are no natural predators for humans. I used to be a natural predator when I was a squirrel hunter when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Except my dad would only let me use my .22. He would not let me use shotguns to hunt squirrel because he thought that was not fair. And it made it's hard to shoot a squirrel with a rifle.
I've always felt they should be able to shoot back.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I had got a 22. I was 12 years old, I think.
I was 11.
Single shot.
Yeah.
Probably the safest firearm you can own because you have to put the bullet in.
Yep.
then you have to pull back to cock it, and that you have to do all that before you can shoot anything.
That's why my dad got that. I remember him saying, "This is the safest gun I could give you." And
Yeah. And then, well, that was I've owned some 22, semi-automatics, and I just don't like them because I don't want to have that. I don't want to have that shell in there while I'm messing around trying to figure out what I want to shoot next.
Yeah. Well, but now I had never really thought that through. There is no natural predator for squirrels.
Not well. When I lived up in Kansas City, we had Jake the cat, and he thought squirrel meat was pretty good. So he kept them down up there, but then something happened to him, and because he liked to go out and roam the neighborhood.
So cats, cats.
But yeah, he would catch the squirrel. He'd eat them all the way down to the tail. I'd find squirrel tails laying around.
Is that right? Well, okay, JB, you left just in time to miss our gruesome squirrel talk. That's actually
JB, that's why I've got a hat on, so I don't have to worry about my hair.
All right. Well, that's why I actually quit hunting. Just it hit me one day, and I was about 12 or 14 or so, and I was skinning a squirrel, and I thought, I don't like this. I'm not enjoying this. I'm not going to do this anymore.
It's a lot of trouble for what you get out of it.
Well, it was just gross.
And yeah, it's gross. It's gross. I'm a little the same way with fishing. I like catfish, but I don't want to mess around cleaning them anymore. And I did it when I was a kid, when I was a teenager and younger.
Yeah, that was the most hateful part of fishing.
Yeah.
I never minded trout, though. My stepfather used to take me trout fishing.
That's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
I've been trout fishing and I never caught a trout ever. I became convinced they don't exist.
He was very, very good. And at the time, the San Joaquin River, you had to hike 2 miles in to get to it. Now it's all suburbs.
I think the best way to catch trout is what an old boy I know lived over on the Niagara River there by Bennett Springs, where they stock it with trout, and the trout would go down the river. And he had set up a gill net to catch suckers and trash fish, and he would catch trout too. So we'd have a trout fry every once in a while.
Well, at the time, my mother was working as a waitress in a steakhouse, and they had a wishing well. And so every once in a while, he'd bring back a couple of live ones to throw in the wishing well. They got really big on steak.
Well,
Jake could fish too, because my neighbor had a big goldfish, and I found it in my backyard.
Moldovans to become professional online trolls. Shaw has not responded to a CNN request for comment.
Hundreds.
This is kind of interesting. This is a story about a Russian troll school where they literally teach them how to troll. If Maggot Man came here, I was going to accuse him of going to this school, actually.
Bronx says they've really been attacking her over on X.
Who's getting attacked?
Bronk, Blue Bronk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she says they've really been going after any of the Ukraine supporters on X.
No.
Oh yeah, you can figure that. But the thing is, I'm getting myself all mixed up again. I get these things on here and want to put them on the screen, and I've got this woman on here, and I can't find the button where I make her talk.
And of course, we've now had 2 mass shootings today.
Yeah, what's going on with that? I've been in Moldova all day.
Yeah, there's one that was a Latter-day Saints, I think, is it Michigan or whatever, and another one. Where were the 2 shootings? One moment.
It's getting crazy out there.
One's in North Carolina. And that one, the one in North Carolina, he just drove into the place and then started shooting.
Wow.
And let's see. And the one with the fire was the Mormon church with 1 dead, 9 wounded, and they're expecting to find more because of the fire that was set.
Where was that at?
Let's see, Grand Blanc. Let's see. Grand Blanc, what state? Grand Blanc, Michigan.
Oh, well.
Was the Mormon church one.
Huh.
And the other one was in North Carolina.
Huh.
It's, like I say, it's crazy out there. And the problem is we don't have anybody wanting to calm it down. You know.
Trying to see. Anybody read Romanian? I think they're actually giving some results here, but I don't believe they're.
Voturilor, multe campanii s-au făcut în subteran.
That doesn't sound like English.
Forțele oligarhice pro-Kremlin mergeau cu tot felul de scheme, grupuri de cumpărare a votului, de mobilizare.
Think about foreign languages.
De tentative de fraudare.
It's kind of like some people who speak English.
Fel de noutăți.
I don't know. I don't understand anything they're saying, but I like listening to it.
Am văzut și eforturi destul de considerabile a organelor.
Oh, and then there's Mayor Adams dropping out, and Trump throwing his weight, I guess, behind Cuomo.
Yeah, I think the next thing that happens is Adams gets a job in the Trump administration. I think that's what happens next.
Well, that would. I think the deal like with Adams, you might be right there just simply because, you know, the Republicans like to have a few blacks around to prove that they're not racist.
I call it the Alan Keyes chair in the Republican Party. It's a chair that's been filled by many. And Herman Cain had the Alan Keyes chair for a while, and then the brain surgeon, he got a cabinet job from Trump. What was his name? The low talker.
No, I can't.
Yeah, and whoever fills the black chair in the GOP makes money hand over fist going to Republican gatherings. They send quite a bill to the party for all the goodies for the room and food and.
Oh, I mean, Alan Keyes literally lived off that. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I was covering, I don't remember what year, but it was in the years I was covering presidential campaign. And I got curious to just about, because he was not filing his FEC reports. He just didn't file them. And, they'd go after him and he just didn't file. And so I thought, well, let's see what's going on. Anyway, so I started trying to. He had no headquarters. He really didn't have much of a staff other than his traveling staff. I mean, basically, that guy, his whole campaign was just, rental cars and airplane flights. I mean, he didn't have a campaign. It wasn't a campaign. He was just paid to be on the road and talk. And when they finally did file reports after it didn't matter, and I guess he left the race, that's how, just what you're saying, all the money had come from big time Republicans who were actually supporting other candidates, just wanted to keep him in the mix.
Right. They would pay him huge speaker fees to go to these various meetings. And of course, everything was comped, his flights and his room and food and drink. Yeah.
Hey, it's a good job if you can get it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how much you charge to speak, Craig, but I'm sure his was a great deal more.
Oh yeah, yeah. That whole market dried up at one point. For that isn't the. I remember some people. I know the Carvilles at their peak, if they appeared together, and which they still do some. So they probably, I don't know. But I remember at one point they were getting as much as 50,000 when they appeared together.
You don't hear much from her anymore.
Yeah, she left the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And
she got very quiet too. So in fact, I was wondering, what her health was like because I had heard so little from her.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they are getting up that age.
Yeah.
I mean, Carville just has not stopped talking.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people just wish he would.
Right. I was going to say he's a little bit like Tony. You need to slap him on the nose.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I got duped because in a way, because Carville and who else? There was somebody else at his level that just flat out predicted. I mean, Carville went in the New York Times and wrote a piece saying that Harris was going to win, and who else was? Anyway, it was somebody else that I really that it was unusual for them to go out on to make a prediction. And I was almost there, but they put me over the top. I thought, well, if they're saying that, then it must be true.
They were just peddling it, hoping against hope.
Yeah, I think they were actually, and that was a game that Carville didn't used to play, but I think it was a turnout booster.
I think what a lot of us were thinking and why I was hoping she would pull it out was we thought that maybe the Republican women would kind of like, okay, the curtain's closed, I can vote for Harris.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Well, I think what happened was, like we said, is that Trump actually got into the Democratic base there.
Uh-huh.
And the simple reason is the Harris campaign never made a case for why we should keep the Democrats in power.
And they're still not.
Her whole thing of I'm going to do something different than what Biden's doing cost her the election, I think. If they had made the case that things were getting better and you could show the charts, everything people were worried about was getting better. Keep and if she had just said, okay, let's stay the course, we're working, it's working, Democrat policies work. It takes time, but she didn't.
Mhm.
Well, and they pulled in what we call the unlikely voters to an extent I did not expect. I mean, when we saw the not early returns, but early voting, and I was really paying attention because I was particularly looking for white non-college men under 30, because they were a wild card in that election. And in the early voting, they were not showing up. And that gave me confidence that, and I don't know if Joe Rogan had anything to do with it or not, but all I can say is when he just went out there hard charging for Trump, Rogan, and had JD Vance on for 3 hours, 4 or 5 days before the election, something happened, and those white non-college men under 30 showed up. I think another thing that made a difference was $40 million for one single TV ad on college football TV, football on TV, on the transgender attack, because that particularly worked well with that group, the white non-college men under 30. And that was also, people thought, why did Trump write, "I hate Taylor Swift"? I knew exactly why when he said it, because white non-college men under 30 hate Taylor Swift. They're sick of it hearing about her from their girlfriends.
Well, and I do think the transgender thing played, and I don't think that the Harris campaign ever figured out a way to fight it. Now, Tim Walz did.
Yeah.
Tim Walz was simple. Mind your own goddamn business.
Yeah.
But being a busybody, mind your own business. It's not in your business what they do.
Well, I've come to the conclusion that men have a problem, straight men and the younger crowd have a problem with gay men and transgender, is they're afraid that those are going to do to them what they do to women.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Well, it's the this is strange and weird, and therefore, since it's strange and weird, then it must be not right.
If I don't understand it, it's wrong.
And it's what I tell people. I've got my nieces, son, I guess daughter now, is transgender, and trans is doing the stuff to change. Anyway, it's what it doesn't make any difference what their name is. They're the same person. The person didn't change. He's the same very nice person as a woman as it was as a boy.
Yeah.
And that's just, but there's not that many people out there that know someone.
Well, I do. I mean, that mind your own business thing was definitely the right way to pitch it.
Yeah.
Because that even appeals
that
to.
Makes sense about a whole lot of issues.
Well, that is one way. That is one way to take on all the stuff with the religious right.
Uh-huh.
As just paint them as a busybody old woman.
But it's interesting, the getting back to how I see the way the Russians are messaging in this Moldovan elections is also in other European elections. It's so similar to what we see here. It makes you think, well, maybe it's the same source, because the transgender thing is a big part of this election right now, and the Russian propaganda. Yeah. They've got ads of transgender people, and they're saying if if Moldova joins the EU, they're going to allow this. And they're running against the EU on transgender the same way, almost with the same words and images as the Trump campaign ran against Harris. I mean, and I don't think that's an accident.
No, it's all coming out of those Russian troll farms.
Yeah.
Well, what was it? The guy that ran the campaign for Trump the first time that looks like an alcoholic.
Which one? Oh, you mean the one that got convicted and pardoned, or
yeah? Well, hell, who didn't get convicted and pardoned in that administration?
I always trip on his name. He Manafort. Is that it? Is that who you mean?
No, not Manafort. But no, the Manafort was the one. Manafort was the one that really should have went to jail for a long time for what he did.
Well, he was going until Trump.
But anyway, he went over and was organizing the right-wing parties in Europe. And oh, dang it. Gotta hate this.
Oh, Bannon. You mean Steve Bannon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, there's been a lot of crossing the ocean with our politics with these people, because they've been.
Oh yeah, he's a perfect example of that. You're right. Yeah, it's Bannon is. Yeah. Well, I mean, he literally had a company, that Cambridge Analytic, that was working with the Russians in Russia, and doing. They were doing Facebook profiling and targeting people on Facebook. I mean, he did that as a co-partner with a Russian company. I mean, that's all in the Mueller report. The Russian ties are there. But anyway, it's all pretty well established.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah. And
if you bring it up, the people will automatically say, "Oh, that's not real."
Had received money from this Russian bank.
This is the guy I was just seeing this BBC report on this Russian that he reminds me of somebody that I think was involved with Bannon.
And this comes from this group coordinated by Ilan Shor from Moscow.
Moldovan authorities blamed one man for coordinating electoral interference.
Yeah, this guy. I think he was, I remember him from the old Bannon days, and he's now in the middle of Moldova on this election.
Convicted criminal and former politician Ilan Shor. Back in 2014, approximately $1 billion was loaned from 3 banks Shor had a stake in to 5 Moldovan companies he controlled. Records of the transfers were mysteriously destroyed and the debts written off. The government had to bail out the banks, leaving taxpayers to foot the bill, a debt equivalent to 12% of Moldova's GDP. Shor was sentenced to 15 years in prison, but had already fled and now lives in Russia. Now, with crunch elections approaching, Shor has taken the gloves off, openly offering to pay for protests against the government.
Начиная с субботы, все те, кто поддерживают наше движение, все те, кто поддерживают наш призыв, начнут получать зарплату в $3000 в месяц.
The authorities have called Shor's offer of payment blatant election interference.
One thing the Moldovans are doing that we just got to get more serious about is they're throwing these people off ballots. And I'm sorry if people call it undemocratic and whatever, but when you got people who are undermining your democracy, bribing people, and you can prove it, they just throw them off the ballot. They threw 3 parties off the ballot yesterday, Russian parties. And I think we can learn from these people. It's like democracies have to protect themselves from these people, and it's hard to do because they that's not democratic. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's like when Colorado tried to keep Trump off the ballot, but I think if to save democracy, you got to go down that road and look at doing that.
Well, I think what we've proved is with the Supreme Court that we've got, they will, if the Congress does not specifically say in the language, it used to be that Congress would pass a law and say, we want this done.
Yeah.
And then they would let the president and the executive sit down and figure out how to get it done. Well, with Trump now, since there's no specifics on how to do it, the Supreme Court says, well, that works. It's his choice. So they've got to remove some choices when they pass.
That's how they got around.
And they've got to take a little power back.
Yeah, that's how they shut down Colorado from keeping him off the ballot. Was that basically that argument that it's Congress's job? And, and that's not necessarily wrong.
Well, there has to be some enabling legislation for it, I think.
Well, that's the big problem with the Electoral College. As soon as you've got a third party in there, you usually end up with the candidate you don't want because they siphon off votes. And we need to go some way to get it to be a popular vote rather than the Electoral College. There is a movement. I think there's about 15 states now that say that whatever the vote is, their vote will go to the popular vote. Their electoral votes will go to the popular vote.
That's the easier fix than changing the whole Constitution.
Because you wouldn't have to do an amendment to get that done.
Yeah, Congress can enact a number of laws to regulate the election better. I think that's the bad thing about our election is the voters in one state are not the same as the voters in another state. There are, in some states, felons can vote. In other states, they can't. There are restrictions, and I'm not sure the Democrats shouldn't start running on the vote is sacred. That there is no real excuse for not letting a person vote. And I don't see why a felon can't vote just like anyone else. Because
now is Washington?
You can have local option currently for city and county elections, where if they want to let everybody who lives there vote, they can do it. But right now you can't do that for federal offices. You can only do local option for inside of a state.
I'm kind of that way too, because if you're in there, I think it comes from living in a neighborhood that was 50% Hispanic, where probably a quarter of the 50% or more, half of them couldn't vote because they weren't citizens. And we had to really work hard because politicians only pay attention to votes.
Right.
And so we were not only did we have people that we had more than our fair share of felons too that couldn't vote. And I always thought, in a local election, if the decisions they make affect you, you should have a choice if you're a legal resident. Whether you're a citizen or not, you should have some choice in some of this stuff.
Well, I have no voting rights living in DC. We have no representation. We have That's on our license plate. Taxation without representation.
Well, and that's not right either.
You can vote for president now, though, can't you? Didn't they change that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it didn't used to be you could do
and we
that.
went 96%. 96% for Kamala Harris. And don't think Trump has noticed.
That's why you had the troops going up and down the street.
Yeah.
Just like Portland.
I put up the demographics on Portland versus Tacoma, where I live.
Yeah.
And Tacoma is the most diverse town in Washington. And the part that I live in is even more diverse than their average, because my end is so close to the Army depots and everything. So my street alone, I think we've got everything. I'm pretty sure we've got a representative of everything on my street.
Well, let's see. We got a little. Let's see what we got here. I gotta figure out what I'm doing. Oh, here we go. Well, what? Why did that not?
Is that the money?
Y'all just keep talking. I gotta figure this out. I don't know. Okay. I got something on the. Oh, okay. I got that off. I put this on. Okay, there we are. I just asked. Sam's keeping up. Sam's notifies me when he's got information, and he just sent me a notice that he had this.
Polls are closed and counting is underway.
And that's the pro-European party, projected to be in the lead. Turnout at 51.9%. Boy, isn't that something? Can you believe why? If you're having an election about whether you turn your country over to Putin or not, and you don't vote, I mean, good Lord. Anyway, so that's just over half of eligible voters. This word drives me nuts. It sounds like a disease, but
diaspora.
Yeah. Why don't they just stay out of foreign? I mean, something just non-residents. How about that instead of that word? But anyway.
Well,
it was the diaspora that populated Israel.
Yeah. Let's see what this is.
Well, it's what do we call them? It's the citizens that are overseas.
That's what the diaspora means, but
yeah, and we use a different term. Again, hey, my brain's done.
But
basically, diaspora is just the people that got out of town from where it was too dangerous for them to live.
Well, in some cases, like African Americans, it was they were loaded up in ships and sold.
Yeah, well, they didn't have a choice about leaving town.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, I really like this woman that's the president of Moldova. I mean, she has just really been tough. I mean, she got herself reelected. She's beat Putin twice now in the last few years. She beat him on her reelection. He threw everything against her. I mean, the lies they told about her, you just can't, it's amazing. And it's disgusting. But anyway, and then she beat him on, they barely voted to join or to seek to join the European Union. She got that passed. Nobody thought that was going to happen. But a lot of it was when she did it, the Biden administration was helping her. And Tony Blinken went over there before that vote to really push for it. And I had Sam earlier today. I said, find me anything Trump, Secretary Rubio, the Trump administration, White House, anyone in any official capacity has said about Moldova in the last 7 days, there was nothing, not one single word, as they said. They just have pretended this is not happening.
So they were able to throw some of the Russian party off of the ballot?
Yeah, they threw 3 off yesterday, or I think it was, or maybe even today. But that's what they're doing. I mean, what they're doing these raids, and I think the EU is helping them on this, and I hope they are. But they're finding these outfits. Well, 2 things are going on that are causing them to throw them off ballots. Is when they find evidence of foreign sources, in this case Russian, actually paying voters to vote for their candidate, and then supplying them with weapons with the aim of causing riots if the pro-European party wins. And so those are the 2 things when the party, and the thing I've noticed is the Russians are doing the same thing in this election in a lot of cases that they do here. They're just sloppier about it. They're more brazen about it. They're easier to catch than they are here.
In some way you got to take some of this stuff that's going on. In fact, in the United States too, is go back to the 100 years ago in the big city corruption.
Yeah.
Big city machines. Only now we've got big enough and enough money, like people have enough money that you can just take it nationwide. And that's what I'm saying with the Trump administration. They'll sell anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was looking at a story yesterday that really got into the chapter and verse on the pardons they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to find out a way to tax wealth, because it's getting really out of hand as far as money at the top not coming down to where it can do some good for the general population. I think
even if they do charity work with it, they pick what they want to support, not necessarily what needs supporting.
Right.
I mean, that's and everything. We worked with those grants and stuff, and they've all got strings attached to them. We did with of course, we all learned the buzzwords real quick, and we write them up into the grants. One up there in Kansas City was always on entrepreneur stuff. So, everything we did was entrepreneur.
Well, I think what a lot of people don't understand about taxes is if you make $1,001,001, you're only paying the top rate on that $1.
Yeah.
Everything under it.
Well, and basically the way it is now, for the most part, if you are middle class, if you're making $150,000 to $250,000, you're paying a lot of taxes.
Right.
You're paying way more, especially if you're getting all that money as income. Person that gets income gets screwed. It's the person that gets the free ride on the owns the stock and stuff.
Right. The stuff they don't have to declare as income until they sell it or move it around or do whatever they're going to do with it. It's not income.
Yeah. And then when it does, they give them a break.
Yeah.
And that's why it's starting to irritate me. I've hit the point where I've got to start pulling money out of my IRA, and I've got to pay taxes on it.
Oh yeah.
And when I die, my heirs have to pay taxes on it. However, the part that I have setting that's not in the IRA will just pass tax-free to my heirs. You know, because you don't pay taxes on inheritance stuff under $1 million.
It's even more than that now. But
is it? I don't know. I don't know what it is.
On the IRA,
I'm not up there where I have to worry about that.
Yeah, you might check with a tax person that you can put it in a trust, a pre-probated trust, so that they don't pay as much in taxes. But check with a tax person who knows what they're doing.
But yeah, just pretty much. I'm been busy rolling over every year because I don't have any income to speak of except Social Security.
Yeah.
And so, and a little bit of, a little interest money and stuff. So I've been pulling stuff out as I could, tax-free, and rolling over into a Roth IRA. But yeah, I never thought I'd have to learn all this stuff.
Yeah, my son just retired and he's a triple dipper now.
Yeah.
He had 20 years in the Army and 20 years in civil service, and now he's got Social Security. So,
well, I'm comfortable. I thought I learned to live on very little anyway.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm very comfortable on my Social Security. And so what I've been doing is I've been helping out some of my nieces and nephews when they get in trouble, just simply because I've got the money laying around. Charge them interest so they make money off of them. Oh, well, like I told my one niece, I said, you're a high risk, but you're getting a good interest rate. Yeah.
Well, Al Jazeera says most polls project the governing party winning. So that's just polls. We're still not getting results. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, I was telling Craig the other day, though, that they should make the minimum Social Security $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Well, then if you really want to go full socialist, the old guaranteed income that Andrew Yang talked about, there's a guy at AFL-CIO who's one of their top research people and real popular with reporters because he's always got a lot of good information. Anyway, he could make a case for a guaranteed income. When Andrew Yang started talking about it, I looked up that guy and some of his research because I remember him talking about it years and years ago, this AFL guy. And at first you think, well, that's just communism or whatever, but he could make a pretty strong case for why it made sense and would, in the long run, actually save some money from government benefits and so on.
With so much activity by AI, they're going to have to come up with something.
Yeah.
The thing is, we have a lot of stuff that can be done. If the government wants to raise the funds to do it, we could make our world a lot nicer, and we can make it pretty simple. Right? I guess the thing is, I lived up there in that old neighborhood, and we were always picking up volunteers, picking up trash, and there was stuff that needed to be done if you could get the money to do it. And that's where, as a lot of these jobs, lower income jobs have moved out, we have not picked up and put them to work doing things we need done. I mean, you know.
Yeah,
like
there are trees. There's stuff that takes a human body to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think if I were in the world of AI now, if I were thinking about going to law school, I don't think I'd go to law school again, because I think I'd go be a plumber or a butcher or something. I think that'd be a better, more secure economic future for humans in the world coming. So here's the current breakdown of the Moldovan part: 61 pro EU and 26 Russian, and then they got a smattering. So if it ends up kind of close, she may have to put like a coalition together, which will get messy. But the main thing is that old Putin not get a majority.
Yeah. It sounds like that they're coming out on top. And if they come out on top, then I think that's the main thing. That will keep them from joining Russia.
Yeah. Well,
they're not current. Are they currently a member of NATO or not?
No. Nor are they. They're also what they're currently working on, and they've got support from the big, from France and Germany, the big guys, to join the European Union.
Right.
The first thing this woman, the President Sandu, did after Putin invaded Ukraine is she got herself to Brussels and said, "Let us in. we want in." And then she gathered the support of European countries and the Biden administration, and they had a vote in Moldova, and it was a close one, but narrowly. She won the vote because I thought that was impressive. She just didn't try to do it. She said, "I'm going to take it to the people and get a vote," and they voted. They wanted to join the EU, and just a couple of weeks ago she spoke to the European Union, and both Macron and Merz, the German chancellor, they've all said they want it to happen. So they are seriously into that process, but I don't think there's anything going on about NATO.
Maybe they're kind of just let's be in the EU for a while and then we'll go after the big one.
Yeah, see how it goes. But that's a big reason Putin is spending $200-300 million on this election is he's trying to stop the EU. So all of they have spread these lies to these people in this election about what the EU would mean, and it's the same stuff we hear. They'll eat your cats and dogs, and the transgender people, they'll force your children to be transgender. They'll cut their genitals off. All that stuff, is what they're saying in this election, and as what will happen if Moldova joins the European Union. I mean, and it's amazing when I see all how not just similar, but almost exactly the same as the messaging we saw in our own presidential campaign, the things they said about Kamala Harris. It just makes me think it's all coming from the same source.
It very well could be. Like I said, Bannon's been over there working with them.
Right.
So
right.
There's a lot of, I guess, what you call cross-pollination going on there. And they're, in some ways, the tactics are much the same as attempting to disrupt and so on. I think I remember a professor in college saying, he was talking about violence, political violence. And he said the left wing, when they do political violence, they target something. Whereas the right wing, when they do political violence, they just do it widespread because they're more interested in having disorder where they can walk in and say, I'll solve the problem.
Yeah. Because that's part of the Putin strategy in undermining democracy is, and it's there's a market for this. Is the point you try to make is democracy is incompetent, it's inefficient, it's messy, and it doesn't work. And that is how he makes gains in all these elections. Like right now, the inflation, the energy prices, because of the war in Moldova are just unbelievable. I mean, basically people just don't have any gas. I mean, they just walk everywhere. I mean, I guess, I don't know. And that's a winning argument in a lot of cases, is that, I'm the strong man, put the strong man in charge and he'll make things work the way democracy can't do.
And of course, now here in the States where AI is a big thing, energy rates are going to go sky high because they're sucking off all the energy.
Yep.
There's that.
That is a pretty amazing thing.
Not only are they sucking up all the energy, they're sucking up all the money. I was reading something recently. They just, the amount of money and the guy was talking about it and said, not only are they sucking up all the money, but they're sitting there manipulating back and forth, making it look like they're making money when they're really just trading rocks,
This was interesting, getting back to some of the shenanigans that sound familiar.
If pro-Russian parties gain a majority in this election.
The first step is just to push Moldova away from the EU. That's just the gateway drug to pulling them into the Russian sphere.
Russia's full-scale invasion of neighbouring Ukraine supercharged this tiny post-Soviet state's EU ambitions. Last year, it started accession talks. But the pro-Russian opposition is pushing back. Its main candidate and former president, Igor Dodon, claiming the EU is preparing Moldova for war with Russia.
They still have a lot of steps they need to go through to become a member of the European Union. A pro-Russian party or pro-Russian coalition would probably stall that, if not try to reverse it.
Natalia Zaharescu, a Moldovan investigative journalist, says she has seen Russian tactics evolve firsthand. Zaharescu has spent more than 3 years infiltrating online networks linked to this man, Ilan Shor, a fugitive Moldovan businessman living in Moscow, and linked to a vote-buying scheme that threatened to undermine last year's presidential election and referendum on EU integration. His latest effort, Zaharescu says, was to train Moldovans to become professional online trolls. Shor has not responded to a CNN request for comment.
Hundreds of people were trained how.
Now this woman is one brave lady. She does all these investigative reports over there, and I don't know how she's still alive. I don't know how Putin has allowed this woman to live.
To use social media, how to make accounts under fake names, how to post these messages that they were given.
And she, working undercover, was one of them.
And they were telling that we are in an informational war. We have to act like a big troll farm. Everything is paid directly from Moscow.
Moldova is, experts say, a testing ground for Russian hype.
That what she did and was doing and the risk she took kind of makes some of our Washington correspondents look like really.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what we're going to have to do here. I mean, she did a long report that the France 24, the English language French channel, which is so good. She did a long report for them that showed her infiltration, and she recorded all these. They had a guy in Moscow who would teach their classes. They were in Moldova, and he was on a speakerphone, and he would teach them, and she recorded all the things he was teaching. And the remarkable stuff is how similar it's at. He talked about how you've got to focus on, the family, the supporting families, and talk about the gay right, gay people and transgender people are a threat to your families, and all that kind of stuff that we hear all the time. And to hear a Russian actually teaching people this stuff, and it sounds almost exactly what comes out of the mouths of right-wing pundits and podcasters here. It's really spooky. It makes me think he's also teaching them. That's where they're getting it.
Would anybody be surprised?
I wouldn't.
I'm trying to put my mind together on that one. It's like when you're reaching out on some of these countries like Moldova that still have a lot of people who are traditional.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Traditional family values. Russia
so
goes after that.
Anything that smacks of let's use the hillbilly talk. Anything that smacks of the big city, the big evil city, is to be. You don't want it.
And in this case, they demonize, Paris and Berlin and Brussels. Those are the big cities, because since everybody's pretty much rural in Moldova. The big cities they run against, and they show all the same things that we all the crazy parties, and I mean all the stuff that goes on in the big cities, and that this is what they'll turn Moldova into. The other thing they lie about is they talk about how that the EU is planning to start a war with Russia, is planning to invade Russia, and they've got all these assertions about that, I mean, in their campaign messaging.
I remember when I was a kid talking about that stuff, a preacher going off on, I don't know, some woman had went to the big city of Joplin, Missouri. and not a heck of, but at the time, and fell into evil ways. And it was like, man, I thought Joplin had to be the most sinful place there was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something else they did is exactly the same thing they do here, where they would round up all these evangelicals and bring them to. You remember that one story about how they brought a bunch of them to Moscow? This was going back several years. They quit doing that because it got backfired on them. But they did that with these Moldovan priests. They got like 30 or 40 of the biggest Orthodox priests and brought them, expense paid, to Moscow, wined them and dined them and showed them all this propaganda about the EU and feed them all this stuff. But they make them believe it, that these threats are real. They're not trying to get these people to lie. They actually are persuading them to go back to and then then they showed them going back to their congregations in Moldova and preaching all this hate of the European Union to all their crowds, just like Russia. And I'm thinking, this is exactly what they, because that's one thing Putin understood is American evangelicals. He really knew how to go after American evangelicals. And he makes all these pretenses about how he's so religious and stuff that they all believe.
But he plays the same game within his world. Like you say, he makes himself out to be a saint or the savior of, Mother Russia and whatever.
Yeah, he keeps a bunch of those leading Orthodox priests well fed Literally.
Well, I mean, you know, that's the way the Tsar controlled that territory partly.
Yeah.
He controlled the church. That's why you've got the Russian Orthodox Church everywhere, because it was a handy control. I think Jamie, was it you that put the clip on about the guy that wrote the thing did the thing about the religion the other day? He'd written a book about how.
Oh yes, separation of Vogelsang. Separation of church and hate.
I thought he had a very good point in that he said, if you look at what Christ says and you look at what the church has done through history, it's like two different religions.
Well, Vogelsang has a definite advantage. His father was a priest and his mother was a nun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that part too.
And they both left the church, got married, and had John. So he knows his Bible.
Yeah. Well, it's you know, it's kind of the when you do out here or like I did as a community activist, you're working with a lot of church people, because you know that's where they get involved in that stuff.
Yeah, I always thought it was fascinating that Vogelsang had those parents and he's an atheist.
Yeah. Well, it's
you know, he has that commercial, not afraid of burning in hell.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm not worried, you know.
And of
now,
course,
I will use terminology that, because that's the world we live in. But you know, when I die, yes, I will join Sherry, but it will only be because we're both dead, not because we're living in some paradise somewhere. So I've got to make the most of what I've got right now, because there is no reward for me.
I cannot understand.
And do what I can do, and
I've got some results here, but I can't seem to get them on the screen for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't get them on the screen. They're right here, but every time I try to add it to the screen, I get that. Something from CNN. What's that? Anyway,
they got 28% of the votes counted, and the pro-EU party is leading with 40% of the vote, and the pro-Russian 31.5. So that's close. Because what they started this with 62 seats versus something like 26, so it is tightening. Then 40% is not a majority.
Yeah.
well,
Wonder what other parties are running. What are they like? Do you know anything about them?
Yeah, there's three of the ones that they've let stay on the ballot. What happened was that there were 5 or 6 pro-Russian parties, and then the Russians started trying to consolidate them, because for a while their strategy was to have a whole bunch of parties and split the vote. So, you know, he's been doing what he also did in the Hillary election, is fund spoiler parties, you know. And so that's what they were doing. But then toward the end, they've started consolidating into this main pro-Russian party. And then there's a couple of independents. And then there are the pro-Russian parties they actually threw off the ballot. So of the independents, most of the parties that are left, it'd be close, but if she ends up with 40%, there might be enough independent parties to maintain a governing coalition, but it ain't going to be pretty.
Yeah, well, That's why I say I just wondering what on that one. A lot of times is what she will have to do to deal with the minority parties, and are they more pro-Russian or more,
Yeah, they're
out to the other wings on the other going the other way.
Yeah, I had a list here earlier, but there are some that are more agrarian and some that are more urban, and it kind of breaks down more along demographics than either pro EU or pro Putin. And of course, the strange thing about Moldavia is they've got a sliver of the country that actually the part that borders with Ukraine that has its own separate government, and it is Putin does control that.
Yeah.
This one woman, the president, I mean, she's the one that's holding the line, and I just can't believe Putin lets her live, to tell you the truth. Of course, I wonder that about Zelensky.
Well, right now I think they've got all they can handle. Because here's the thing: except for Russia owning nuclear arms, they aren't that powerful of a country.
Yeah,
but they're causing way more problems than they're worth.
Yeah, John McCain summed up Russia better than anybody I know when he said that Russia is a gas station masquerading as a country.
But I was messing around on YouTube and that clip came up. I guess it was where a Russian plane invaded the Turkey airspace.
Oh, yeah.
Down, but that's been several years ago.
Yeah.
And Turkey shot them down. They were saying, well, that's what the EU needs to do instead of sitting there trying to just say the minute you cross, you're dead.
Yeah. And the thing is about that is Russia never did anything about that. They did not respond.
Yeah.
They just took it, which ought to be a lesson. I mean,
like Sam is offering to give you seats.
Yes. Yeah. Let's tell him yes. My keyboard has suddenly begun just not responding, and I've recharged it. I don't, when your keyboard and your mouse shut down, you've just got no life. I mean,
that's
hey.
I think eventually I don't know whether the little laser thing gets dirty or what, but every once in a while, I have to just throw my mouse away and go get another one. And I've actually on my computer that I've got that's not online, I've got the old mouse with the cord on it. I haven't started using it yet. It's back here. About all I do with it is play games and do a little. It's got my Microsoft.
You're laughing at what I'm writing here, Jamie. Yes, keep the updates rolling. Jamie and Jack can't get enough details about the Moldovan elections.
Except that Jamie's going to have to bow out. So give me some of the finals over on Trail Mix, would you?
Yeah, it's about 40%. And, well, the main thing is she's hanging on. The president, the pro EU, she's hanging on. She's got a tough road to go. I wish she had an American administration that was on her side like she had with Biden, but France and Germany in particular are going to go to bat for her, whatever they need to do. So that gives me some hope. So I think we can put a bow on that package.
Well, yeah, I hope so. It's anything, to keep Putin looking like a loser.
Yeah,
is the thing.
I'm just still waiting for this administration to say anything about this. I mean, that's amazing.
They won't.
They really do not want to weigh in at all, and that's certainly how Putin wants it.
Well, it's basically Trump has pulled back, except for his. I guess we probably don't have any exports or imports from Moldova.
Yeah.
You can't put a tariff on them,
Yeah.
There's nothing there. But that seems to be his whole foreign policy, is where he gets mad at one country or another and he slaps a big gas tariff on them.
Yeah. Until he gets another chew toy and forgets what he did.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He just once he gets a couple of headlines on something, he moves on to something else, and the staff is left to try to make it all work or just let it disappear.
And my tea that I've been buying in bulk, I looked at the price and I had been paying like $6 a pound, and it's up to $9 a pound now.
What is?
My tea from China.
Oh, you get tea that's $9 a pound?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
that's less than coffee, I guess.
And it goes a long ways.
Huh.
But it was $6 a pound. It was fairly cheap at that. Good tea, that quality tea. I got it online from, I can't remember the name of the company. Of course, they charge $12 to deliver and so what I end up doing is I buy a couple of pounds and then I buy some for my nieces and nephews to drink tea. And I say, well, it's all the same. The delivery charge is the same whether I buy 5 pounds or I buy 1 pound or I buy half a pound.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm gonna wrap things up. I think I'm satisfied Moldova is hanging on maybe by a thread, but this is not a blowout. It's not a blowout, but it's going to be tough.
Well, I need to fix me a bite to eat anyway.
All right.
So you take care.
Okay. Good talking to you.
A key fault line between Russia and the West is about to be tested. A major election this Sunday, 28th of September, could determine the result. Moldova is on the verge of joining the EU, a problem for the Russians.
Moldova was facing an unprecedented campaign of disinformation from Russia ahead of key parliamentary elections with the aim of knocking the country off its pro-European course.
I think the Russian interference in Moldova is important, not just, but also for the threat that Russian interference poses across the entire European Union.
Moldova stands at a crossroads. Brussels on one side, Moscow on the other.
Russia has unleashed its full arsenal of hybrid attacks against us.
Moldova is sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania. Its location makes it a front line for the geopolitical battle of influence between Russia and the West.
There are capitals across Europe looking on to, because this election has an outsized influence on where Europe stands in this so-called battle of narratives between East and West. And there's a real sense that Europe simply can't afford to lose Moldova.
Russia has unleashed its full arsenal of hybrid attacks against us.
Moldova votes. Why does this tiny country matter? This sliver of land between Ukraine and Romania. They head to the polls today for parliamentary elections, and it's not just about potholes and pensions in a tiny country with 2.5 million people. The result could decide whether they lean toward the West, the European Union or get pulled back into Moscow's orbit, and it's a dress rehearsal for Putin's strategy all over Europe. His political aim to take over European countries one by one in the elections. So this isn't just a local election. It's a lab test for the Kremlin's favorite tricks. Can Putin win Europe without firing a shot? Moldova might give us a clue today.
A key fault line between Russia and the West is about to be tested. A major election this Sunday, 28th of September, could determine the result. Moldova is on the verge of joining the EU, a problem for the Russians.
Moldova was facing an unprecedented campaign of disinformation from Russia ahead of key parliamentary elections with the aim of knocking the country off its pro-European course.
I think the Russian interference in Moldova is important not just for the Moldovan elections, but also for the threat that Russian interference poses across the entire European Union.
Moldova stands at a crossroads. Brussels on one side, Moscow on the other.
Russia has unleashed its full arsenal of hybrid attacks against us.
Moldova is sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania. Its location makes it a front line for the geopolitical battle of influence between Russia and the West.
There are capitals across Europe looking on to, because this election has an outsized influence on where Europe stands in this so-called battle of narratives between East and West. And there's a real sense that Europe simply can't afford to lose Moldova.
Russia has unleashed its full arsenal of hybrid attacks against us.